Hey guys, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my opinion on the Vault of Glass. It is the first raid in Destiny, and I'm going to be talking about it on the normal difficulty. I've had the pleasure of going inside the Vault of Glass this week and getting my feet wet. You know, I've spent a total of 5 hours in there, approximately, maybe a little bit more, maybe 5 to 5.5. We'll go with 5.5. We are currently on the last boss, and we broke down those 5.5 hours over the course of 3 nights. The first night we got up to the first boss. The second night we got up to the pull right before the final boss. And last night we just spent an hour fine-tuning our strategy for the second to last encounter in the raid. We did almost the whole thing blind. The last part that we did the last time we raided, we were pretty much almost done with it, and we thought we knew what to do. But we were having trouble with one of the portals. Anyone who's been in the Vault of Glass, we just wanted to see if there was the possibility we could do the portals in the opposite order. And that didn't work out. So when that didn't work out, we looked up why we were having such a hard time. And we figured it out real quick. And we got past it in like 45 minutes worth of attempts. And another thing is, we did most of this with level 25 to 26. We pretty much got to I think by the end of the second night, I was 26. I think we still had a couple of 25s. We may have actually had all 25s and 26, but the first night we definitely did it with all 25s and 26s. We definitely had no 27s the first night in there. So I've seen everything on the last boss, and we've dipped into it a little bit. I was having trouble with the connecting to the Destiny servers today, so I didn't really get to do it too much, but I've done it enough to formulate my opinions on the raid. Now, the first thing I want to say about the Vault of Glass, it far exceeds the difficulty of the standard strikes in the game. And by far exceeds the difficulty, I mean it actually has mechanics, like a lot of people thought most of the game would. Strikes, for the most part, just bullet sponge bosses with a bunch of ads. And raid bosses, Vault of Glass bosses, are bosses with mechanics with a bunch of ads. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And you know what? After doing it, it really made me upset that the rest of the game wasn't designed with, you know, it just wasn't designed as well as the Vault of Glass was. I think that all strikes could have benefited from some form of mechanic other than maybe bring a different kind of weapon for a different kind of shield, or it's only difficult on certain like with the modifiers equipped to it, like for the Nightfall and for the weekly heroic and things like that. I feel like they could have just been difficult without those things. Now the next thing is something that I feel really, really strongly about, and it's probably going to piss some people off, but I don't think Vault of Glass deserves the title of raid. Now, technically, it does, and I'll explain why. A raid is not measured by the amount of people. It's not measured by how many bosses there are. It's measured, sorry, lacked my English right there, again. So, it's measured by the difficulty in comparison to the rest of the game. And considering strikes are just bullet sponge bosses, it doesn't really take much to be a raid. But what the Vault of Glass boils down to is it's a glorified 2-boss dungeon with some difficult trash. That is what it boils down to. There's only 2 bosses, and I'll tell you the names right now, the Templar and Atheon. The first encounter is you just play, it's basically like PvP, except you're controlling points and defending them, except you're just defending them from NPCs, you know, from enemies. Second part is just defending a bunch of confluxes while not stepping in the green stuff, and then you shoot the green orbs. That's all it is. And all the while, bunch of ads are coming out. That's really, again, that's what made the strike so hard. That's ultimately what makes the raids just as hard. The thing about the raids versus the strikes, though, the strikes is like, okay, we dealt with that wave. Let's fight. Let's just do damage. Whereas the raid is like, okay, they're never going to stop coming, so we got to be able to deal with them constantly while dealing with the boss. So, and then after the first boss, the really cool labyrinth with enemies that can instantly kill you if they spot you. But the labyrinth was super small. Once you know how to get through it, it takes less than 60 seconds. And honestly, you could get through the whole thing even if you don't know where you're going in less than like 3 minutes. We spent maybe like 8-10 minutes on our third attempt, and we went in a giant circle. We actually covered the entire labyrinth. We didn't notice the exit. We actually walked right past it. But we actually found an additional loot chest, which was nice. And then after that, it's the worst, the worst. Man, I play Final Fantasy 14, and the things that they consider jumping puzzles are barely jumping puzzles, but this is a jumping puzzle that serves no purpose. You can just jump past it. It's pointless. It's like, hey, what's that down there? We did it for like maybe 10 minutes trying to like get us all to do it at the right time. And then finally, I don't know, I don't remember who it was, but somebody just said, yeah, guys, I just noticed there's a platform down there, and I think that's right where the last platform disappears. Do you think we can make that jump and live? And sure enough, we could, so we skipped the entire jumping puzzle. Again, not a great mechanic. We spent a little bit of time messing around. We thought maybe we had to jump back up, but then we stepped forward, and we were on the trash pull before the last boss. Trash pull before the last boss reuses the mechanic for opening the gate. It reuses one of the mechanics from the first boss, a shield, a relic shield that gives you special abilities, literally the exact same shield, and it reuses the mechanic of defending the confluxes from the trash before the first boss. So, a lot of recycled mechanics is my next thing. By the end of the dungeon, you've seen every mechanic at least twice, if not 3 times, which is just, I hate that. That's just lazy, lazy, lazy design to me, reusing assets that much within a raid. And Bungie definitely disappoint. You can kind of tell they've never designed anything like this before, ultimately. That's how I felt after I did it. And then on Atheon, the boss we haven't even had time to go in and fight yet, since we've only spent 5 hours in there, if that much, considering how much we messed around or if any of us went AFK for anything. Atheon, again, reuses the portals that you literally just used on the trash before him. He reuses those, which means he reuses the plates from opening the gate. He does a few things differently. Not really mechanic-wise, just the ADSI summons are different compared to everything else. They just kind of self-destruct if they get near you, and they can shoot you if they can't get near you. And then you got to kill oracles. And you have the shield again. So the shield, the oracles, which are the green orbs that I told you had to shoot before. The holding of the sync plates. It's basically, this is one big reason to me why it didn't feel like a raid. Was because it's just, the whole entire instance is just preparing you for the last boss. That is all it did. It was basically just a bunch of stuff that you did, and then you just got to be able to do it all at once on the last boss. That was basically all it was. It's a glorified dungeon. It's a glorified 2-boss dungeon. That's all the Vault of Glass really is. And the most disappointing aspect of the entire thing, and I really hope that on hard mode it's not like this, the mechanics aren't difficult. They are just, I've played enough MMOs for these mechanics to be so incredibly easy to me. They are just, you do them once, and it's just like, oh, that's how it works. It's not like where it's like, oh, you know, I gotta memorize it. It's, I don't know how, I don't really have a good analogy for it. I was gonna think of one, but I don't really have one. They're really easy in my opinion, and I don't know. They're just, you gotta, like, going in blind, for us to have gotten as far as we did in a total of the first 2 nights we got to the trash before the last boss, we did it all blind, and in total that was about 4 hours. With level 25s, 26s, we didn't have all 20, we don't have all 27s until tonight, actually. Tonight when we tried to go into Atheon before the server kept kicking me off, tonight was the first night we were all 27. So, I don't know. That's just, you know what it was? The majority of the difficulty comes in the ads, which is very similar to the rest of the game. So, that's really, like, the mechanics, not hard. Just killing all those ads makes it hard. And it doesn't even make it hard. It just makes it tedious. It's just like, oh, we have ads. Okay, there's a lot of ads. Okay, stop and kill ads. There's just ads. Ads, 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 ads. I'm not even fighting the boss. I'm just fighting the ads. That was really what it felt like the whole time. We're just fighting a bunch of ads. Again, a weakness that I expressed in my initial review of Destiny. And you know what? That is disappointing. So, originally, I gave the game a 7.5 to an 8. I gave it a close to an 8 because I really do enjoy the classes. I really do enjoy the gameplay itself. I love the Crucible. I like the upgrading system. I like the unique stats on gear. But after playing the Vault of Glass, I'd give the game closer to a 6.5 to a 7. Because what Bungie promised, they definitely didn't deliver on. I don't think the raid was difficult on normal. I'm hoping that hard mode is not just difficult because it's a higher level. That would be, again, lazy design. That is literally just, hey, you need better gear to do this. It's exactly the same, but we need better gear to do this. I'm really, really hoping to find out that the hard mode actually has mechanical differences. There was even a mechanic some people didn't even know existed on the first boss, where if you step where he's about to teleport, it prevents him from teleporting and spawns a Minotaur. And then even after that, you could just ignore it, so it doesn't really matter. It's just, I was just disappointed. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun. It was fun figuring it out. It was fun going in blind. Doing Atheon not blind, definitely not as fun. I can imagine having a lot more fun doing Atheon blind. But ultimately, Vault of Glass on normal is a laughable excuse for an endgame raid. And it's also a laughable excuse for Bungie to think that 6 strikes and this are going to be enough to hold the majority of interest. If you're not playing in the Crucible, there is a good chance that you will stop playing this game by next week. It's a very high possibility, and that's my honest opinion. And even if you are playing the Crucible, you know what? Crucible gear is the same as the PvE gear. It just has different, unique effects. So, you know, unless you want a faster mount or something like that, or a special vanity thing, or unless you just love PvP, those are the only really good reasons to do the Crucible. You know, if you're just looking for character progression, once you have all your legendaries and, you know, an exotic that you really, really like, you just need to upgrade them. So, unless Bungie's got some really unique plans with those events they have planned, like the Queen's Wrath, unless that's really well done, they're going to have a hard time selling their first expansion. And they're going to have an even harder time selling the second expansion, because if this is the only raid for 3 months, there's absolutely no way I will be playing for the next 3 months. There's absolutely no way. There's no point. I already have like 5 exotics. One of them's not for a class I don't play. I already have, you know, legendaries in all the other slots except my rocket launcher, which I have an exotic of, but I just don't have a legendary primary. Legendary and exotic secondary. I have an exotic heavy machine gun. I have an exotic scout rifle. It's like, there's no more room to go up. There's not a well enough designed horizontal gameplay experience at the maximum level. And I'm talking about 20 being the maximum level, because after that it's all item level from like MMOs. So I've rambled on quite a bit. I wanted this done like 4 minutes ago, but man, it just really irks me that the Vault of Glass was so poorly designed. It really was. It's flashy. It's different from the rest of the game, but overall, it's a poor excuse for a raid. I really hope Bungie is going to try harder in the future if they release any new strikes, not just bullet sponge bosses. And if you're going to release a new raid, don't just make it a bunch of trash pulls and then 2 bosses, and the bosses aren't even hard. There's just a shit ton of ads all over the place. Make the bosses actually difficult. Like, I can shoot a harpy over and over and over again. Guess what? I don't care if it keeps spawning, because I'm going to keep killing it in like 3 seconds. And you know what? Boss is only available to shoot it for 20 seconds. Good. I can shoot it for 20 seconds. The ads don't even get in the way that much. And you know what? I'm just going to end this right here. Ultimately, Vault of Glass made me lower my score. Despite being the best aspect for PvE by far, it was just a disaster. Bungie, you need to go back to the drawing boards on this one, because you made a lot of little mistakes, but your raid is probably the biggest showing of your lack of knowledge of how to design something like this. You gave it your best. I think you need to look at the raid or whatever you have planned for the first expansion. Really, really look at it, and if you have the time, make some adjustments. Make it difficult, or do something before the expansion, something that isn't going to cost people money, because that raid was just disgraceful. So on that note, I'm going to end this video. It's my opinion, so I was going to say like, favorite, subscribe, and share, but a lot of people aren't going to like my opinion, so you don't have to like it, I guess. Like it if you agree. Don't unlike it if you dislike it. I can tell you to dislike it. If you don't agree, that's what people use the dislike button for, when they don't agree with something or they don't like it. So I'm going to get going. I will talk to you guys later. I will release strategies for the rest of the bosses in the Vault of Glass, even though I don't think you'll really need them. So until then, take care.